Here's the clarifying question, which I probably should have brought up on it. I thought about texting you this like late last night, but I was like, no, I'll save it for the pod. Is this a list of the best 24 under 25 today, or is this a list of the 24 under 25 that we want moving forward?
I think it's moving forward.
Okay.
So we should
that's what I'm going on as well.
So we should set like next 5 years, next 10 years.
I think this is not the time to have like the contract discussion. Like
I'm not even factoring.
Yeah, no, like
I'm literally factoring ability.
Yeah. Like I don't care that like Cade Cunningham is making only whatever he's making on average, like $8 million a year for the next 3 years versus, Luka Doncic is going to be making, 38 or whatever it is. Like that's, and I don't even think we should factor in team control. I just think it's like, just as players,
it's ability. Yeah.
Yeah. Like who do you want for the foreseeable?
Let's go next 5 years because that's a max contract. Because if you want to factor contract in, it's like, let's just put all these guys in a pool. And if we're signing them to a 5-year contract, what would it be? Like, who would we want in that order?
Fine. You want to do 5 years? That's fine. Okay. Yeah. Great.
And that the reason why is because like there are some younger guys that like I'm betting on their upside. There are some older guys that I think we've capped out what their upside is that might be higher on this list for some people, but be lower on our list because we're factoring an upside for somebody else.
Yes.
Which I'm staring at somebody now that might come into play.
All right. Well,
I got the first pick and it's an obvious one. So I'm just going to banter a little bit before I take Luka. So I broke mine up into 4 tiers. My research. I have a tier of 8 that is potential first teamers, and some have already made some first teams. The second tier is a tier of 7 of all NBA teamers, which guys can make an all NBA team in the future. Then there's a group of 7 that is all-star teamers, which guys who might make an all-star team. And then there's a list of 27 that is just the best of the rest. I went through the entire league and just looked at birthdays. By the way,
wow,
guy that might come up later. I'll wait until we get to that point. But there is a person who turned 24 today. So happy birthday to them. When he comes, he might be in the top
24 today.
Yes. And this is under 25. So he's eligible for this draft, but he turned 24 today. And I have him in the all-star teamers. In fact, I think he made the all-star team this year. So we'll see. I have birthdays written down too, so we can go through and point out birthdays. There's also somebody on this list that I noticed has only had like 6 birthdays in their life because they're born on February 29th. Yeah. Shout out to him. That must have been rough.
So
Luka Doncic is the number 1 overall pick, by the way. This was an easy number 1 pick as well. While I guess the injury concern is there, I think if we're going on upside, there's no person's upside I want to bet on more than Luka Doncic.
Because it's a bit at this point. I'll just bring up the conversation that just got had on the low post in terms of ranking Tatum in terms of who would you want right now. And Tatum's my pick. I also think that's just as obvious. And by the way, I also did tiers, and these 2 were in a tier by themselves.
Oh, interesting.
Because I think there is because it's simple.
It makes sense. It's an MVP tier.
Well, it's who could be the best player on a championship team right now. And I think these are the only 2 people who are in that tier. And I think they're the only 2 people in that
right now tier. Is the key word of that sentence. Yes. Right now is the key word. I have another guy that I'm about to shock you with.
So. Okay. No, that's fine. But like, until you show, and look, you could argue that I think Luka's already proven he could be the best player in a championship team. Some would say like, well, you're not the best player. You can't be the best player in a championship team until you win a championship as the best player. And like, if that's your view, that's fine. I would say Luka's already there. And I would say based on what Tatum has done so far this season, like he has pushed himself into that too. I think it's clearly Luka 1 and then Tatum, although, they were, when they were talking about it, I think it was Zach and I forget who he was talking to. I think he was talking to Bontemps. They were a little bit more that it's even, but to each
they were respectful of Jason Tatum. I think the Mavericks are, or even were, and might even still be, They are a stupid decision by Jason Kidd away from me answering your question earlier of who I have as a title favorite.
Oh, that's sure.
Like if Luka had played game 1 and 2, I think they're up 2-0 and I think they look super strong. We'd be having way more like, holy shit, Utah's really going to get swept in the first round. And this is the end of this version of their run.
Yeah.
And instead we had to wonder if they'd win game 1 or 2, and we'll see what a hobbled Luka looks like the rest of the series if they can come back and get home court back and win the series.
Well, he needs to play first. So,
okay. So,
number 3, shock me. Come on.
Do I do it now?
I'm wondering where the hell you're going with
So
this.
there's a projection of 5 years from now that we're also doing. There's also a recency bias with this pick, I think. And I also know I'm going to be able to get one of the guys that I have ahead of this person. I'm so high on Anthony Edwards after what I saw down the stretch of the season. Listen, I think there's a first team All NBA in this guy in the sooner rather than later future. And what I saw at the end of the Clipper game with Paul George on the court, what I saw in game 1 against a Memphis team that has looked like a well-oiled machine all year, it wasn't even just that like Memphis was getting whatever they wanted as well. Like Ja was able to get to the line consistently. And it just didn't matter because the offense was running through Anthony Edwards and he was either creating for others, creating mismatches that we talk about all the time. The Knicks are never able to create. Or he was just like taking advantage, like with double teams going through them and scoring at will. I'm so high at Anthony Edwards that this could be the Dwayne Wade 2.0 comp is legit for me. So I'll go Anthony Edwards here.
So you are taking him here.
Yes.
Wow.
There's a defensive aspect that I can't get over for one guy. And there's your team was like 22-5 with you this year or 20-5 without you this year thing that I can't get over with the other guy, which I'm about to get because you might take one of them.
So let me just say for Edwards, I don't think it's crazy. I'll say this. I think it's probably a little early.
It might be
to take him here right now, especially since I was not going to take him with my.
But I thought
pick.
you might. Okay, I thought you might, which is why I wanted to make. Yeah. This is a guy I wanted on my team to make sure because I know I'm gonna get one of the next guys that I get.
I wasn't going to take him. That said, if we look back on this conversation we could look back on this conversation in a year, and there's and it's like, oh yeah, sure, Edwards was actually turned out to be the obvious pick. He just finished his age 20 season, averaging 21.3 points, little under 5 rebounds. And here's the big one for me, just under 4 assists per game, which like, if you don't think that sounds like a lot, I'm going to go back to RJ for a lot of comps for this because it's what Knicks fans are used to like watching. It's like we often gush about RJ's playmaking. He averaged 3 assists a game. He actually was 2.97.
Mm-hmm.
And Anthony Edwards, who was a guy who came out of college with a reputation of a ball hog and just wasn't going to pass and wasn't going to make the smart plays. He's averaging almost 4 assists a game and he's a year younger. He's going to get that number over 5 probably as soon as next season. And the bigger thing is the other knock on him was that he couldn't shoot or he took too many bad shots. It's not just the fact that he took 8.4 threes per game and hit them at nearly a 36% clips. He was 7th in pull-up 3-point attempts this year, behind only Trae Young, Luka Doncic, Steph Curry, Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, and James Harden. He hit those pull-ups at a 32.5% clip. It's a little low, but at the same time, you look at Harden. Harden hit him at a 33.2% clip. Tatum, 33.4. Van Fleet, who was one spot after Edwards, 33.1. So he's not like Trae Young or Steph Curry on pull-ups yet, but those guys are literally the best in the world.
Uh-huh.
The fact that that pull-up game is already this dangerous, and what he could do when he puts the ball on the floor and drives, like you said it, this guy might get to a point pretty soon where just defenses can't stop him. So
Yeah, I'm projecting all the stats you talked about around this year. Like I'm projecting over the next 5 years, I would rather have Anthony Edwards. Man, what I've seen the last 2 days, the last 3 games, and you add in like the last month or two of them. Yeah. Like every time I watched the Timberwolves, it was like, oh wow, this is a fun team with a really dangerous star on the rise. There's no reason why they can't be a 3 or 4 seed next year. And we're talking about them the way we talked about Memphis this year. You know,
it's not crazy. Speaking of Memphis, that's my pick. I'm going to take Ja.
So you're going Ja.
Yeah, I'm going to go chalk. I don't think I need to talk.
I actually don't know if it's chalk.
Look, I'm not going to say another name because I don't know which way you're going to go.
Okay.
Is he 20? He's 22, right?
Ja Morant is 22
years old.
Will be 23 in August. Yes.
Okay, fine. He's 22. He's going to be 23. He's going to make an all NBA team this year. Second or third team, whatever it is. Go look up the list of guys throughout NBA history who have made an all NBA team at 22 years old. It's not a long list. I think there's Derrick Rose potential here in terms of like early Rose. I don't have much more to say. It's Ja Morant.
Big fan of Ja. The 20-5 without him thing. I want to make clear that like it more just throws me off because I watch Grizzlies games I think enough that I'm like, yeah, best player on the floor is Ja Morant tonight. Their engine is him, and yet
he's not perfect,
right? Like there's flaws to him, but I don't think it's to the point where he's not worthy of being a top 3 or 4 pick in this draft and mentioned on this list. Now, the person I was wondering whether you were going to go with, and I don't think if he gets past me that I think you'll take him, is Trae Young. And
he's the other guy.
So Trae, defensive liability aside, right. And you saw it. The Heat this is where the genius of Eric Spoelstra just continues to shine. Like the way they're attacking Trae, both offensively and defensively, where they're picking him up at 3/4 court. And then like Kyle Lowry's doing all this Kyle Lowry bullshit. And they're literally switching every creator on to Trae Young on offense, where it's like, oh, Jimmy, now you're guarding Jimmy Butler. Oh, now you're guarding Tyler Hero. Oh, now you're guarding Kyle Lowry. You're seeing all the flaws in his game in this Miami series. Having said that, the reason I have him on potential first teamers or future first teamers, look, there's a world where they trade for Rudy Gobert and he just does everything he does for Donovan Mitchell and making up for any liabilities, but to like an elite level that like the Hawks win 55 games next year. And like, oh, the Hawks won 55 games and Trae is doing this. Let's put him on a first team. That I think he has to be the pick here. I've seen some Twitter discourse who's better. And I know how you feel about Twitter, but I've also heard smart basketball minds say, or at least have the conversation of who would you rather have, Trae or Ja? And Trae has a following, and I think a reasonable case that the ceiling of him offensively is higher than any ceiling Ja will get to offensively or defensively. The floor is way too low defensively that it evens it out, but offensively he's one of the best in the sport right now. So I'll take him now.
Here's the pushback on Trae.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say Ja's not a good defender, and he's probably never going to be a good defender, but Trae is such a bad. He's such a minus on that end that I think the hesitation is he almost needs to be the best offensive player in the sport to make up for the fact that any smart, good team, and there's like last year, he didn't run into one of those teams until the conference finals, but like there are usually 2 or 3 or 4 or maybe more good, really good, smart teams in the playoffs. And like he will never, again, unless his offense just gets to like 2016 Steph Curry levels, I don't think he's ever going to make up for that defense to make the equation positive in his favor. And I think there is an argument that like no team is with Trae Young in it is ever going to like be able to win it all because of that issue, which is why he's whatever, he's 5 here, you know? So
to use a baseball analogy, he's a DH. You know?
Yeah, except there's no DH.
I know. Unfortunately, there's no DH in basketball. You can't just only play the offensive side of the floor. He's David Ortiz, Trae Young.